Hello and welcome to my recording studio. Todd Lewis here, working on some music for a project I'm extremely excited about. A brand new theatrical production here in Grand Rapids of Medea. No, let's get this out of the way right now so there's no disappointment. This is not the Tyler Perry Medea where he dresses up as a woman. This is going back to the wonderful Greek original, the Greek tragedy of Medea. A fantastic production. It's a brand new translation being done here in Grand Rapids through Heritage Theater Group in conjunction with Cambridge Publishing. So it's a very exciting project, and I'm thrilled to be on board with it. Fortunately, working with Karen, she's very open to things that have a strong melody to them. So that's where I started here, was taking the words that Diane had translated from the Euripides original Greek and trying to figure out how to put them to a melody. This is really challenging as a songwriter because the lines don't rhyme. They often have different rhythmic patterns to them from line to line or every couple lines. So it became a real challenge to do this without changing many of the words. I think through the whole course of this thing, maybe 10, 11 words maybe were changed or tweaked as we went along because they just couldn't quite fit the rhythm. Let me talk about the singers. We were composing this for three performers, three female chorus members who represent the chorus where this takes place. Now, I chose with the instrumentation on these pieces to go with not a completely traditional Greek sound. I mean, the lyre was an instrument primarily utilized during that time. And while I do have some stringed instruments in this that are kind of plucked and sort of can sound of that period a little bit, I wanted to stay away from, as did Karen, being locked into that era and that geographical location. So I've been able to bring in some other orchestral instruments into the instrumentation. Now, I don't have the singers down here, so you're not going to be able to hear any of the music with them singing. That you've got to come see the show for, and you're going to want to because they sound absolutely fantastic together. But let me play just a little piece of music here for you that represents kind of some of the arrangement that's going on. Here you go. So there you go. that's just one of the pieces. The arrangement is probably going to change a little bit before we open the show, but that's kind of how it goes. Now, let me invite you in to kind of show you how I do the arranging here for anyone who's interested in that. And you know what? If you're not interested in that, you can hit the stop button here. No need to keep listening. This will be probably really boring for people who aren't interested in kind of the behind the scenes of how music is composed for shows. But if you're interested, let me show you how this is done. People often wonder, how do you do all of these different instruments and who's playing them? And, do you get together with an orchestra or whatever? Or is there just a computer program that you just kind of program in, hey, here's the key it's in and here's the tempo now. Come up with an arrangement and the computer does all the work. Well, it's neither of those two things. It resides somewhere kind of in between. You don't program it into a computer and it spits out an arrangement for you. You've got all the notes. Now you've got to actually utilize it to play something. And that's where the skill as a musician and the creativity comes in. So what I end up doing here is basically recording each one of these instruments one at a time into the computer and layering them on top of each other. So I might start with the piano, doing that piano piece. And then I might want to layer some violins on top of that, so I'll switch to my violin sound, or maybe a cello. Now, that piece of music I was just playing is not one of the pieces, incidentally, from Medea. It's just a piece I was just happened to be playing around with there. But let me give you a quick example here. Here's the beginning of one of the pieces. It's kind of one of the more traditional, kind of dark, romantic pieces that's going to be in the show. You're obviously not going to be hearing the singing. Again, the singing, you got to come see the show in order to hear the singing. But let me just play just the beginning of this. This is coming through the computer. Very simple little piece, but I think it represents how this arrangement can go. So there you go. See, that's just one of the pieces from the show. Now, let me break it down. How I started out with this was I knew I wanted there to be kind of a lyre, kind of guitar, stringed instrument kind of a sound that was the basis of this. So I started out by recording that piece, which is just this track right here. Sounds like this. Very simple. Then after that, we just add on top of that the next thing, which I knew I wanted some violins, a whole kind of string section behind that. So let's go to that here, and here's kind of what that sounded like. Kind of a little darker edge to it. So putting those together, here's the guitar. Now, what I next wanted to do is I definitely wanted to add some sort of a counter melody, something that was going to go against the melody that's going to be sung by the singers. Now, to give you an idea of what the melody is going to sound like, here's just a piano playing the part that's going to be sung by one of our singers during this. So you're going to kind of hear the melody plunked out by a piano along with the guitar and strings. Here we go. So there you get the idea, but what I wanted now was I wanted a little counter melody, something played by one of the instruments that was going to be an additional melody that was going kind of a little bit counter to the melody that the singer is singing here, and that's where I wanted kind of a cello. I wanted a darker sound to this, so I added in a little cello line that sounds like this, along with the guitar, the string section, and the piano plunking out the melody. So there you go. And again, you know, that cello is just a very simple sound, but the computer is not doing all of that work. I've got to still program in that that counter melody that's being played. Okay. Now, on top of that, I wanted to add a little bit of a flute, kind of lighten it up a little bit. I didn't want it to be too dark here. It is kind of a darker romantic piece, but I wanted just a little bit of lightness in, so I added in a little flute here. Nice cello there. Here comes that flute playing another counter melody. So that's kind of the basics of how it's done. In some ways, it's very simple. It allows me to do this all by myself, but in other ways, there's still an awful lot of creativity that has to come from it. There's a lot of time down here experimenting and trying things and failing. This particular song that you're hearing right now is the third attempt at composing a song for this particular chorus piece or a few stanzas of the chorus. The first couple iterations were very different in tone. One of them was very avant-garde and very modern, very discordant, and it just didn't work. It didn't work for me, so much so that it never even got to Diane and Karen for them to hear. This was the last piece that I composed for the singers for this particular show because I was just really struggling with it. But then one day, finally, I struck on something that I kind of liked. I just sat down here. I started all over from scratch. I threw out all of the ideas that I had been working on, and finally I just sat down and pulled up a little piano sound here, and I came up with this melody for the beginning of that. The first line being, "The extreme passion of Eros never grants men prestige or virtue." That's the line as it's written in the translation. The extreme passion of Eros. And so it needed something passionate, obviously, but I wanted it to be kind of a romantic sounding song, so I came up with this idea. The extreme passion of Eros never grants men prestige or virtue, but when Aphrodite sends just enough love, no other god is so gracious. Goddess, may you never shoot me with inescapable arrows from your golden bow, anointed with desire. So there you go. It'll sound a lot better once we actually have the women singing it as it's supposed to be. But now, if you want to hear just the instrumentation for that whole piece as it should sound, here it is with all those instruments in it. So there you have it. Gives you a little taste into kind of what the music is going to be sounding like for this production of Medea here in Grand Rapids, opening on July 12th at Spectrum Theater. I strongly recommend that you get your tickets right away and come. Don't miss this production. I hope this gave you a little insight on how the music is produced for a show like this. Very, very honored again to be a part of this production. The singing, the acting, the directing, the translation, everything is extraordinarily top-notch. Very honored to be part of it. Can't wait to see it myself. So if you come see the show, please stick around afterward. I'll be at as many of the productions or the performances as I can be at. Would love to talk with you afterwards and get your thoughts on the piece as a whole and any input that you have on the music. I look forward to seeing you there. Take care.